This question is pretty old school. I've been teaching the SAT for a long time, and this rule is something that used to come up a lot on the old SAT, but very rarely on the new one. And I think that a lot of tutors still make a big deal out of this because of, habit. They think it's so important because it used to be. It's really not. Like, honestly, if you don't remember this after this video, it's fine. But I'll explain the rule. So in this case, it says, ratings, however, reveal that far fewer than 1 million people have been listening to the broadcast. That sounds good because it is good. That's what we need to say. So there's a couple things that are going on here. The rule that most people focus on is this difference between fewer and less. And so there is a rule for that. They kind of mean the same thing, but fewer is a word we use when we're talking about items that can be counted. And then we talk about things that can't be counted when we use the word less. So like in this case, we're talking about people, right? So people can be counted. We wouldn't actually count 1 million people. Like, we wouldn't do that because it would take forever and be a real pain in the neck. But you could do it if you wanted to, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like, that's a countable thing. And so we use the word fewer because we could count people. We might use the word less if it was something that was not really countable, like a glass can contain less water than another glass, right? So I'll just draw some glasses here as best I can, right? So there's a glass full of water. See, this is why I'm an SAT tutor and not an art tutor. So here we go. This is another glass. So look, this glass contains less water than this glass. We can't count and say like it has like 3 waters, 4 waters, 5 waters. That's not how water works. Water is not a countable thing. It's something that's measurable. We could say that it has fewer cups of water, right? Because we can count the cups, but we can't just say 3, 4, 5 waters. That's weird. And so that's the rule. And that's why B and C are wrong. And that rule extends to words like much and many. Much is kind of like the word less in that it's a word we use when we're talking about something that's not really countable. And many is a word that we do use when it's countable. So it's kind of a double here. Now, obviously, many is not an option in choice A, but far is kind of doing the same job. And honestly, it's more that D is wrong than A is right for that reason. Like that's the better way to think of it, is that D is just wrong because the word much is wrong, and so that forces us to pick A, which honestly is something we might not say ourselves. Far fewer, it sounds a little fancy. It's something that maybe wouldn't come out of your own mouth in a conversation, but it's perfectly fine, and I'm sure you've read it before. And maybe that's why in this case, ultimately, this is a difference. This is a kind of mixture between memorizing grammar rules and trusting your instincts. I would say the memorize is probably the piece that other tutors would want you to remember, so I'll put that as the strategy. But you could probably get this right just by sound, and that's okay. This rule is a real rule, but it's not one that comes up very often, so I wouldn't stress over it.